This is my song, Waiting.
I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I gotta tune in to what the angels say. I listen for the good news coming my way. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. Walking in circles, feeding all the birds, climbing up a mountain, looking around. Yeah, yeah, smelling all the flowers, staring at the moon. I listen to the waves come crashing down, down. Oh, oh, I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I gotta tune in to what the angels say. I listen for the good news coming my way. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. Smelling all the flowers, staring at the moon. Listen to the waves come crashing down, down. Walking in circles, feeding all the birds, climbing up a mountain, looking around. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. Gotta tune in to what the angels say. I'm waiting on the good news coming my way. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. Do, 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 do. Do 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 I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I gotta tune in to what the angels say. listen for the good news coming my way. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today. I'm waiting on the will of heaven today.
This is called The Blue Light. It's about what you see when you see auras sometimes. Well, at least some of the auras that I see. This is a slow waltz.
Witness the blue lights around you, mixed with gold and turquoise surrounding you, pouring down on you like a shower that you shared with us for an hour. And though sometimes it feels like it's fading, I know you won't let it all disappear. Your love is the essence, it burns incandescent. Your love is a lighthouse, my dear. Your love is the essence, it burns incandescent. Your love is a lighthouse, my dear. We need the light shining eternal, most especially when things get infernal. When things get all battered and shattered, lost in darkness, that's when it matters. And though sometimes it feels like it's fading, I know you won't let it all disappear. Your love is the essence, it burns incandescent. Your love is a lighthouse, my dear. Your love is the essence, it burns incandescent. Your love is a lighthouse, my dear. Your love is the essence, it burns incandescent. Your love is a lighthouse, my dear. Your love is the essence, it burns incandescent. Your love is a lighthouse, my dear.
Alrighty, that'll work. Good enough. Okie dokie. Alright, greetings. Greetings, hello, let me go over here. So, come on, I just played that song. Alright, there we go, that's better. Sorry. Too many buttons to press. Let's have a look. Good evening. Ah, there you are. Hello. Hi, Pat. Hello, Ivona. Some of you won't know anything about this, but a bunch of us Terra Lumination Love Tribers had a group gathering last Wednesday, and it was a lot of fun. It's sort of like what we do here on the Sunday Night Lives, but we can talk about anything. We can hear each other, and we can see each other, and we can talk about anything we want. That's the part that I really kind of enjoy. And so, here on YouTube, I won't be doing that exactly. I'm just going to keep all nice and diplomatic. Anyway, good evening, Path. Good evening, Ivona. Path, I just got in touch with you because I wanted to catch up with all the new stuff that you've been showing me, and it's a lot to cover, and it's really, some of it's very disturbing. I haven't had to have a chance to have a deep dive, so I'd like to do that in a different manner very soon, okay? Anyway, I'm going to do this test thing again in case anyone's interested. I don't know who's out there at the moment. I know Path is here. I know Ivona is here. If there's any newbies around, we can do a little mini reading for you by donation, and there's a way to do that now. If you can see this, I just figured out, it's taken me years to figure out something very simple, apparently, where I can just put the link directly into the chat, and then anyone out there in the chat who wants to get a mini reading, you could click the link and you can donate directly. You don't have to worry about super chat or anything like that. In fact, I have disabled monetization for the show tonight. I'm not even going to try anymore. So the super chat's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work. Wait a minute, the button's here. Well, I don't know if the super chat button is on your side, but please do not waste your money on the super chat anymore. Google takes it all because of the way my algorithm's running now. So don't even. Super chat's amazing for people who have channels that are on the sweet side of the algorithm. That's not what's happening here. So we've figured out a new way to do things. Anyway, I'm here if anyone needs me. I can handle 1, 2, 3 live mini readings these days. That's about it. I fizzle out after that. The glory days of doing 5, 7, 8 readings a night, 4.5, 5-hour shows, that's gone. Sorry. I really miss it because I love doing that stuff. And it really is like having a party. It's really like having a campfire. And I think most of you know who've been here a long time know that I love that campfire vibe. It's wonderful. Anyway, I do love our friendship and our community after all these years. And it's amazing how we've found our own unique and quirky ways to support each other through difficult times and supporting and celebrating the good times. Even though each of us is sometimes thousands of miles apart with very different viewpoints and perspectives about the world and everything, life in the world and everything, we still seem to find common ground. You've probably figured out by now, I'm primarily an artist and a musician and a writer. However, I have to adapt and modify and be very, very mutable, flexible in order to survive and keep going. So you could say that this little Tarot Illumination channel is sort of like an art form, like an artistic expression of my energy that I can share with you. And it doesn't fit any real, I guess, all the mainstream stuff. There's thousands of tarot channels now, thousands of astrology channels, and so on and so on, and they all have these well-established formats, and I've been through all that, been there, done that, and come out the other side to where we are today with something I don't even know what we're doing or how or why, but we do it. Okay? It's called respect of friendship. Thank you, Path. Friendship is very different from other types of relationships. Friendships are chosen relationships where we deliberately, consciously choose to relate and engage and share our energy with others and others with us. It's a beautiful thing. It's a little bit more than a friendship as far as I'm concerned. It's actually borderline family at this point. Ah, yes. So let me go over here. I just want to go to the Astrodoodle for today for a minute. I got a few comments. I will try and comment without getting myself in trouble. Now the thing is, now that I've demonetized the show, there's much less chance of attracting the nasty algorithm and all the haters out there who like to destroy this channel. Because there's no money in it. Like, oh, what's the point in trying to advertise? There's, you know, it's that kind of thing. I know a few YouTube channels that I watch. They have what I consider very valuable content, but they do not monetize it. They just literally do it for the love of it. They like to share what they have. And some of them do ask for donations, but some of them are literally purely for the love and the service of sharing. Yeah. Yeah, so it looks a bit strange as an Astrodoodle goes. As you know, I don't put all the things like the asteroids and the fixed stars and the mathematical points and things like that. I like to include the North Node axis, and I like to include a little Chiron, okay? The others I don't bother with Lilith, and I don't do all the Pallas and Junos and all of those things. It's very interesting. I know someone, I'm very dear with someone who loves Vedic astrology. And I've studied it for a while, but that was many years ago. And I kind of gave up on it, even though it's very good for what it is and what it does. But in Vedic astrology, they don't really include the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto. And that felt kind of strange to me because honestly, that's where most of my personal interest lies, is in the outer planets, the subconscious ones, the ones that are almost impossible to understand or describe or integrate into our souls in terms of ownership of the energy. The vast amount of humanity is consumed with the energy fields to do with Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. That's pretty much where it stops for most people. Once you start getting into Jupiter and Saturn, you're already going way far out into the solar system, and the magnetic fields, the electromagnetic fields, and the geometry deals with much bigger issues to do with the soul journey, your life journey. Hello, Necessary Truth. Greetings. But when you get, you see, the thing is that I'm talking about the visible planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Okay, but once you go past Saturn, you can't see these things with the naked eye. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you have to have amazing telescopes, or have your own direct feed to NASA or the Hubble telescope or something. Elizabeth Babcock, good evening, ma'am. So, but over the years, I've really enjoyed exploring the outer planets because they're very much associated with human behavior overall, the behavior of persons rather than the individual. So we're talking about the history of people, over huge extended periods of time. And I'm talking about massive time spans. And I don't have my big fat amazing book. I can't remember where it is now. Oh, I wish I had it. Oh yeah, this thing here. See this one? You've probably seen this. I've shown this a few times. This is called The Last 2 Million Years. It's actually a school book, but I love it. And 2 million years, as you know, is nothing. It's just like a hiccup or a fart or a belch in terms of the history of this amazing planet. And inside this book, they go back all the way to Darwin. Well, look at. Here's an example. I don't know if you can see it well on. It's almost impossible to show it on the screen here, but how life emerged from the primeval seas to conquer the land. And over here, modern man. Okay, this takes up a tiny little fraction at the very tippy end of the page over here. And really all they're showing is a period of about 2 million years. Now, these weren't really people as we know them today, but they were hominids. They did stand up, and they had the same kind of physique as a person today. 20 million years ago, we're looking at the apes and so on, and primitive monkeys. But yeah, that's 10 million years. I mean, in modern history, this stuff here, when you go to these kind of time frames, you know, the 1300s, okay, the 1500s, that's just literally like one breath in, or several breaths, 1500 breaths. The world, look at this one, look, the world, 1300 to 100 BC. This is before the time of Jesus Christ. Now you can see geographically, there's very little change with the tectonic plates. 3,000, 5,000, 1,000 years ago, the geography was almost identical to what we have today. Now, when we did the meetup on the Wednesday, I did this, showed this display of all the tectonic plates and how they moved across the Earth for about, the last 20 million years. And you could see everything moving and connecting, India turning into China and so on, and the big split across the Atlantic and the Pacific and so on. But human personal history that we know today goes back, look here, these are the really earliest times, and that's only 3,000 years ago. It's over here. And anyway, it goes on and on. All I'm saying is that what we've got recorded, like here's the Roman Colosseum. What's that? 2,000 years ago. Again, 2,000 years is nothing. That's just a handful of Pluto cycles, you know? It's crazy when you think about it. Absolutely crazy. Our concepts of time and our awareness of time. So, you know, some people these days are going to have lifespans extending into the 80-year mark, huh? You know? You know, there was a time when humans' lifespan was barely 29 or 30 years old. You basically tapped out at the end of your first Saturn cycle because life was so brutal, so harsh. And those humans didn't know anything else. In other words, you're born in the wild, and your parents are probably borderline savages, but they lived in very, very primitive conditions, and life was literally about survival. Just raw survival. Food, shelter, heating, cooling, procreation, hunting, and gathering, and that was it. Repeat, 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 repeat. And they learn, and eventually you have all these so-called modern, amazing things that we have today. The thing about what's happening today, here we are, 12th of March, for example, 2023, is that, okay, so we have amassed all this information and so-called knowledge and awareness, but what do we do with it? You know? I think that there are clusters of human beings that they basically fall in love with the power, especially when you extend it to power, control, and money. Money being the currency of power. And once they've had a taste of what it's like to have power, it's more addictive than fentanyl, opium, morphine, cocaine, alcohol, nicotine. Power, the lust for power is just staggering. And once they've had a taste of it, they can't resist. And so you end up with these hierarchies. Hierarchies, very, very much so as displayed during the Pluto and Capricorn era, where you have these very, very regimented hierarchies of power and status in society. And that's been very obvious since 2008. And for the last 18 years, we've had this journey here, Pluto in Capricorn. And the things that I've noticed most is the abuse of power rather than the use of power. Remember, Pluto is only a very recent discovery in terms of technical awareness. Same thing with Uranus and Neptune. So the way I see it, the way I interpret modern astrology, is that human beings only have the most primitive grasp on their true nature. Because if they really did have a full grasp of their true nature, they would spend a lot of time and energy understanding how the electromagnetic and gravitational influence of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto affect you at the personal level. So that you're not living on autopilot through your reflexes, through your autonomic nervous system. You actually take conscious ownership of the energy fields of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then you have to build that into your behavior. And when you start doing that, your whole perspective and life experience changes profoundly at the very, very deepest levels. Your perspective of the world and the world perspective of you changes. And then you feel like you can never go back. It's like once you've had a taste of, how can I put it? Give me a second. I just want to, over the last 20 years, so especially with folks like Edgar Cayce and modern folks like Sylvia Browne and James Van Praagh and John Edwards and all these like famous celebrity psychics and stuff. In each of their personal stories, there's a common thread where they don't want to go back. Once you have transcended these psycho-spiritual boundaries into a life of much higher frequencies, correlating with the integration of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto into your whole being, part of you can't go back, and part of you doesn't even want to go back. The part of you that wants to go back is the part of you that is too scared to deal with what you have witnessed. Because you start to realize, oh my God, my whole life has changed. I have to completely reformat my whole existence. All my relationships, my attitudes towards nature, people, money, homes, careers, destiny, your skills, all of it has to change to accommodate your new levels of understanding. And it becomes so overwhelming that people kind of go, I can't do this. I'm done. I'm out of here. And so they deliberately regress and they decide, I'm going to just concentrate on my 3D reality. Get more money. Get more stuff. Prepare for death. Have a legacy. Have an empire. I'm very interested in having a legacy. I wouldn't mind having my own empire. Like a beautiful island somewhere and we could all hang out. But that's a different story. I digressed. And so you get stuck oh my God, I'm going to go back. And then once you go back, everything feels really turgid, stuck. Like you're some kind of car that's running in low gear in the mud, grinding your way up a gravel hill. And you're convincing yourself that this is life and that this is good. And you're deliberately wearing blinkers to everything else, the splendor that's out there. And then you end up frustrated and miserable because you've already had a taste and awareness of what's out there in the great beyond. And so you end up like this. Oh God, what am I going to do now? You're stuck. And so you get drawn back into the higher realms, the higher frequencies, and you get another taste of it. And you start to understand how the energy fields work, how it sort of operates almost by invitation. Once you realize you have this amazing divine connection with the great beyond, and that has a relationship with you, you realize like you're operating in a completely different spectrum of energy, which by most descriptions is intangible. I'm talking about the energy fields of the people that I mentioned before, the psychics, the mediums. Like, for example, Necessary Truth would understand this path. A lot of people who come to this channel would understand that. If you've had mystical experiences, if you have had close encounters with your invisible friends, angels, guardians, if you've had miraculous healings, if you've had any kind of miraculous salvations from death and come back again, and you realize that there's so much more out there. And then you realize there's no going back. And so you allow yourself to migrate further into the multidimensional experience beyond the frequencies of Saturn. And then what happens, typically in a three-dimensional life, is the people who have decided I can't continue to force myself to stay locked in to Saturn and in the planet energies up to Saturn. I'm going to have to migrate through to Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And so people go to yoga classes and they get their training and they do all this and that, and they try to manage their energy, and they start to do self-medication, advanced self-medication and things like that. And then they reach another threshold and they realize, oh, I'm trying to figure out all this stuff in a three-dimensional way. And you can't do it because everything's actually happening in a multi-dimensional frequency outside and above and beyond the constraints of Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So it's like, I'm going insane. And so people who they've either migrated across that threshold or they're in the process of migrating. A lot of times people go insane. They start coming unglued. They start falling apart because their whole belief systems, everything that was preconditioned starts to sort of dissolve and crumble and become either irrelevant or redundant or dysfunctional or actually dangerous or inhibits your growth and evolution. And then people start going, well, wait a minute, I thought if I did 3 years of yoga training, then I would be, better off out there. And it ends up that they're going berserk, like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to be like this. What am I supposed to do? And all you can really do is keep going. Now, here's a note from Path, for example. She was putting it in on how she's been reading up on Pluto 11th house Virgo. Okay? So that's a very, very good way of understanding and learning in 3D what actually happens in the 5D, 7D, 11D. That's what I like to call it. Because other people before us, a few years or a few generations before us, have already made their personal transitions. They've been like pioneers, they're like explorers, they've been out there, then they've come back and documented their experience and their journeys, and then they correlate that with other pioneers. Typically these would be astrologers and spiritual folks who are already comfortable in the multidimensional spaces. Or, for example, like Necessary Truth, or people who do mediumship. John Edwards can basically walk on a stage in front of 100 people, and, he'll do all that classic stuff like, oh, hello, ma'am, third seat to the left, 4 rows back, I can see a beautiful white dog sitting next to you. Is that yours? And its name is Henry? That's what I'm talking about. And so those are very, very kind of pure, pristine examples of the multidimensional experience way beyond our Saturn threshold. And of course, I've been dealing with it a very long time. It's a question of coming to terms with it, understanding it, and how is this relevant to your life? How do you what does this mean in your life? Where can you do it? Now, as an artist and a writer and musician by nature, I was already very comfortable living in a very transcendental world where everything was highly visualized and would come in here like messages from heaven, and that would translate into art, music, and writing. Some of you have seen glimpses of my art, music, and writing here on this channel over the years, if you've known me for that long. And so that was more or less already functional and operational inside of me, perhaps from previous lifetimes and of learning and studying and experience or whatever. But also a lot of stuff happened in this lifetime, and I've encountered many hundreds of people in this lifetime who are going through their own transcendental journey, their own transcendence from 3D mundane dimensional existence at the threshold of Saturn, and then migrating into the Uranus-Neptune-Pluto existence, into the great beyond. And it can be extremely hard to navigate, but it can be done. And I feel like I am a living testament. I'm not perfect, but I feel like I have to navigate this field every day. Because if I don't, then my life goes very, very quickly. There's no going back for me. So it got to the point, like with this channel, the best thing I can do is just share the experience, communicate my findings. And of course, some of you here are already very familiar and you're already on your own journey. Some people, like for example, Necessary is already highly functional as a psychic medium. Now, psychic mediumship can also, it doesn't always mean, oh, I'm talking to the dead. Someone who's just died, like your grandma or grandfather, or someone who died. The same energy fields operate in present day with living, so-called living characters. And it also goes into the so-called future. That's when you get visions, and so on like that. So the reason I'm mentioning all this stuff is because we've got some very powerful astrology at the moment with sacred geometry that is indicating two specific energy fields. Let me go back and I'll just show you kind of what I'm talking about. Now, I'm sure there's thousands of channels that are already dealing with this in their own way, but I'm just doing it my way here. So what I'm talking about is the cusp energy. This is the cusp. You know, each of these little lines here represents the boundary between one sign and the next sign. So that's what I do every week. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and so on and so on. And the 12 signs in regular astrology, westernized. And classic example, the moon takes 2.5 days, roughly, to go through one sign. Pluto takes anything from 12, 13 years up to 34 years. So it's a vast difference, and that's simply because Pluto is got a much bigger orbit, you know, millions and billions of miles away out in our solar system. But it's still in the solar system. It's still orbiting around our sun. So that just tells you the incredible power of magnetism and electromagnetism. And that electromagnetism exists in our bodies, in our life existence, just as it does with the solar system and the planets. It's exactly the same energy field. So, for the last few months, we've had Pluto hovering around the 0 degree mark. Also at the point of the critical degree. So each sign here, it's like 30 degrees. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30 degrees. And there's a different energy expression on each degree. But when you get to the 29th degree, it's like an energy of desperation, because we experience here on Earth as if the planet is desperate for its final gasp of expression before it finally moves into the next sign. And you've probably noticed over the last few years, especially since January 2020, that the Pluto-Capricorn energy has been fierce, and mostly it's been negative expression. We're seeing all the shadow, darkest sides of Capricorn energy as expressed through Pluto. We're seeing the complete and utter abuse of power, money, and control, to the point of like a perverse obsession, where a handful of elites at the very top of the global status quo, literally like classic healthy Capricorn energy, but it's energy that's abused. And that's very typical at the 29th degree. It's the energy of desperation, like we see the good side and the bad side in very stark contrast. So we're going over the transition right now, and what I notice is that the elites, and some of you know who I'm talking about by when I describe the elites, the elites. What I see is the energy of radical desperation as they start to express the worst of human behavior in order to maintain their status quo, their grip on power and money and control. But it is over and it is falling apart. And Pluto will move into Aquarius for the 20-year journey. This journey was about 18 years. We're heading into a 20-year journey over here. Hopefully, a lot of us will be able to live through this together and share the experience. So as Pluto nudges into the 0 degree and 1 degree mark, over here in Aquarius, we're going to see vast changes at the most profound levels of human behavior. In a very simplistic nutshell, what I am witnessing and seeing and how I describe it is the radical contrast between tyranny, as expressed by the worst of Pluto and Capricorn behavior, tyrannical, despotic, treacherous, evil human behavior, determined to take and control everything. And at the same time, simultaneously, because we're right on the cusp here, the vast bulk of human beings, the other 7.9 billion, are like saying to themselves, like, well, wait a minute. This is no longer acceptable. We've been living under this very distorted energy field for too long now, and it's become too obvious to we the people. Aquarius represents the bulk of humanity and our hopes and dreams and wishes and what's good for humanity as opposed to a handful of elites. So it's a very stark, radical contrast. And of course, you think of other keywords with Aquarius and Uranus. You think of revolution, instability, shock, awe, radical new leaps forward in terms of frequencies of behavior, okay? So we're going to see that over the next 20 years. And this energy is going to gradually decompose like a piece of rotten, ancient, redundant matter. And it will eventually be replaced by something radical and new. And of course, we will begin another 250-year cycle, which will culminate in a handful of elites going through exactly the same storyline, but that'll be at 250 years from now. So we didn't have to worry about that right now. For the time being, we're looking at this cusp right here. This is Pluto, right on the cusp, okay? Actually, let me just show you here. Alrighty, so there it is. So we're over here. Okay, it's right here. We're right here, but all of this is cusp energy here. We're all of this and over into April. It's been going on for the last few years, in fact, but we're actually getting to the point of critical mass here on the 24th of March. That is the exact 0 point, Pluto in Aquarius. So it's a very long, slow process. You probably won't even know it's happening, but it is happening. what we would notice, for example, in the global news, is that there's massive amounts of protest and revolutionary behavior across planet Earth with the masses of humanity who are sick of the domination and control and abuse of power by the elites. So that's not going to stop in the next week or two as we cross the cusp. All that's going to happen is over the next 20 years, we're going to see global revolution. Mass revolution and upheaval as the 7.9 billion humans who are not part of the elite crowd, they are going to reject anything and everything to do with the elite crowd, and they are going to align with what works for we the people, which will be kind of a common shared experience where the idea of a pyramid of power is crushed. So instead of being an extreme pyramid of power, it'll be much more of a flat, gentle slope, and a lot more power will be redistributed to we the people. But that's not going to happen like a sweet fairy tale. It's going to be war, because these people do not want to give away their power, money, and control. So we, the people, we're going to eventually have to take it. That's the way this works. Sorry. Yep. I'm trying to condense everything into a simple nutshell. Hello, Heather. Over here, this other big fat red mark, we have another cusp. Okay, Saturn is in Aquarius, hovering on the 0 point with Pisces. Let me show you here. It's right here. In fact, that was just a few days ago. Well, it was the 9th. Okay, right here, the 9th. We're on the cusp again. And we're already at the 12th, so we're looking at fractions of a degree. But we're essentially at the cusp. Now, I've been in close contact with certain people recently who have described really profound, measurable changes in their life in the last 3 weeks and what's upcoming in the next 3 weeks. And the storyline is very consistent. And these are not people who are into astrology and stuff, but it was impossible for me not to recognize classic cusp energy behavior. And one of the people I was talking with was a Piscean person who was commenting like, I've never been through anything like this in my life, where Saturn, I'm doing a correlation here, Saturn is migrating out of Aquarius and into Pisces. And what they're noticing, the Pisces person was noticing that the Saturn energy of stability, responsibility, stewardship, management, testing and being tested, all of that energy, if you're on the right side of Saturn and you've done your homework through life, then Saturn can be your friend. On the other hand, if you have tried to avoid the teachings and lessons of Saturn to get through life in shortcuts, then you're going to suffer. Okay? Sorry, folks, but that's just how it's going to be. And you're going to see a lot of suffering on Earth. Saturn's going to go into Pisces, and Saturn was going to manifest everything Neptune and Pisces, okay, for the next 2.5 years or so. So we're going to see a lot of sickness and disease being exposed, and a lot of people suffering, okay? And that's inevitable. But there will also be people who enjoy a certain blessing of Saturn entering Pisces, where they will realize that something very deep and profound has been smoothed out for them in that part of life. So, getting back to the individuals, everyone on Earth has everyone on Earth has Capricorn at 29-30 degrees somewhere in their chart, or 0 Aquarius somewhere in their chart. Same with this one. Everybody has Aquarius 30 degrees, Pisces 0 degrees in their chart somewhere. It could look like this. I'm not going to go into personal explanations, but these two red blobs are affecting everyone on earth in some way or another. So how's that affecting you? Of course, obviously I do personal readings. If you want to do that, we can do that, okay? Greetings, Green Faith Collective and Centered Mind Therapies. Wow. Now that is one serious title. Yes, massive financial shifts, changes of jobs, career, destiny, absolutely. Being tested in your faith, absolutely. Welcome. So I just wanted to talk about the cusp energies here and here because they are very, very profound. They're happening at full volume, maximum expression today, right now. Okay? I am noticing it very, very, very distinctly in my life at the personal levels. I know exactly what's happening here in my own personal life because obviously I do my own astrology for me. I don't do it in the way that I do it for other people. I just track it like I would track a weather app. So anyway, we got that. Now, a quirky thing is, let's go back to the transits for today. We've got this cluster over here. Saturn is actually here. You know, it's actually in Pisces. So I should put this over here. Okay? Saturn is actually in Pisces over here right now at the 0 degree mark. So we've got Saturn, Mercury, Sun, and Neptune sprawling all across 30 degrees of the Pisces energy. Okay, so that's a big, big, big swath of energy in the Pisces realm right now. So for all of you out there, wherever the Pisces energy lives in your chart, that's where you're going to feel these big, profound changes. Okay? Now, when you've got a very, very tight conjunction like this one over here, Mercury, Sun, Neptune, it triples and amplifies the energy. And it just so happens that it's in a very tight, what's called a trine, harmonious vibe with the moon in Scorpio right now. So some of you might be sensing some kind of extremely deep, profound, let's say, I don't know, soul experience where you might not be able to put words to it, but if you were to take the time to go on a walk or have a nap or something, you might get the sensation that you are more profoundly connected with the great beyond than ever before in your life. And it's just a glimpse, okay? Because the moon's going to be in Sagittarius in a matter of hours, so this is just a fleeting moment. I know for myself personally, I've had extremely vivid dreams over this time period here. Okay? As the moon goes from here to here. It's very harmonious, so it amplifies the sweet stuff. And with the Scorpio, we're talking about the depth of the soul and feeling it emotionally here with the moon. And then, of course, the actual depth of the soul over here with Neptune, Sun, Mercury, and the communication. So that I'm just sharing my personal experience there. Now, at the same time, we have a really, really nasty, hard square. This is the 90 degree mark. This is 120 degrees here to here. This is 90 degrees here to here. Mars is in Gemini. So you might have noticed on world global news, especially in the United States, that there is a massive outpouring of communications, information, local news, mainstream news for the American media, the American mainstream media, and the, let's say, the very toxic energy that has been discovered and revealed. We could talk about some of these horrible things that have happened in America recently, anything from some of these tape recordings and emails and communications shared between some very powerful, highly corrupt criminal elites. It's leaking out. It's spilling like sewage all over the media, and even the global elites, mainstream media curators, like the people who own this platform here called YouTube. They can't stop it. I've seen some of my videos come out with notes that say, please be aware, dear viewer, that the information being shared to you with this channel contradicts what we can tell you is the real narrative about what happens in America and what's happening in America today. So please be very careful about what you're watching. In other words, there's this fierce Mars energy. Mars is in direct motion here. Mars is just attack, 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 attack. Mars is attacking all the lies, betrayal, deception, fraud, criminal behavior, destruction, horrible things that have been discovered that elites have been perpetrating on we the people. And how it's gone all over the world. Massive sickness all over the world. And America has its own version of it. And it's being called out. The Mars energy is very fierce when it comes to global communications. And I see it in my homework, how the people who have integrity, honesty, and truth as their way of operating, they're calling out all the disgusting stuff that's going on there. And these people, they can't hide it. The elites, they can't hide the squalor, the lies, deception, and betrayal. They can't hide it anymore. So the elites are running around scrambling, trying to figure out, we can't, this is all wrong, it's all lies. Okay? All you can do is sit back and watch and observe. I think it's very funny, personally. Anyway. Welcome, drip, drip, flood, drip, drip, flood, drip, drip, flood. Yeah, nothing can stop what's coming. Absolutely true. Welcome to the epic battle of dark and light. Absolutely true. Path, it is spewing out. It is literally spewing out like a massive sewage spill, non-stop. It's just spewing out everywhere. The truth will set us free. I could talk a lot more about this particular aspect here, but I will get in trouble, so I'm not going to talk about it not on this channel. But if you want to join us on one of our Wednesday evening get-togethers, that would be fine. We can talk about all of this in a very open manner without being censored. Anyway, a couple of notes here. Uranus is in Taurus at 15 degrees right now. So it is at maximum expression. So please don't be scared about everything that you're seeing across planet Earth with extremely bizarre weather events. Extreme flooding, extreme drought, extreme cold, extreme heat. Completely out of sequence with more stable patterns. Volcanoes, earthquakes, tornadoes, cyclones, atmospheric rivers, catastrophic events. That's just the Earth shaking around. Okay, that's just, that's just planet Earth shaking up. It just so happens when Uranus is in Taurus at 15 degrees, it's at maximum power. So all the tectonic plates and all of our human existence that is conducted on the surface of these tectonic plates is being heavily shaken right now. And it just so happens that billions of people live on highly vulnerable zones where the tectonic plates either do this or they do this or this. Either way, that's where you get your earthquakes and so on. And tsunamis and so on. And so obviously hundreds of thousands of people homeless, probably millions by this point. Anyway, I'm just ranting now. Somebody, oh no, I gotta check something here. Just bear with me. I'm gonna play a little quickie little tune here because I gotta do some homework here before we go off to the next part of the show. I want to just do something, okay? Give me a second, okay, folks? All right. I think I got it figured out, folks. So let's go over here. So we got a reading lined up for Necessary Truth. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. All right, let's have a look over here. Just please bear with me. I'm getting set up. All right, we'll probably have to come back to this in a little bit, but let's go over here. Here we are. Okay, so we're going to do a mini reading for Necessary Truth. Some of you know her very well. She's been here many times and since very early days on the channel. And she has all these classic characteristics of a psychic medium. Stuff comes in from all over the place about anyone and anything, typically within her realm, obviously. And sometimes, you know, for anyone who operates as a psychic medium and they're aware of it, it can be very challenging sometimes, because how do you correlate the intangible with this physical world of so-called tangible stuff? It hardly makes sense. And like I was out and about yesterday, and I encountered a lady. We were talking about pendulums with a group of ladies, and one of the ladies says, "Oh, God, don't talk about that. Don't show it to me. I don't want to see it. It goes against my religion. Take that thing away." Okay? So sometimes it's like that with people who are psychic mediums. And sometimes they get scared of their own energy, because where's it coming from? Where did that come from? What was that voice? What did they say? Who were they talking about? Oh, I see a color. Oh, I see somebody's name. I feel somebody's energy. And it could be someone who's already passed away, someone in the present, or perhaps something coming down the road in the future. So here's an example. Necessary Truth. Weeks and weeks ago, you sent a very powerful message to me. I think we were live at the time. Hey, TL, don't forget to check. Well, maybe it was in private. I can't remember, but I think we can share this safely, okay? There are two things on the front of your car. You have to lift up the hood, and there are two things, and they need attention and repairs and maintenance as soon as you are able and ready. Okay? So just do that. And I knew immediately what she was talking about. And in fact, all of that stuff is scheduled for repairs in the next week or two. Okay? Hopefully a week. Sooner the better, because there are two very important components of the car under the hood, roughly on top of where the wheels and the tires sit. And they are in very bad, dangerous condition, and they are going to be repaired. Thank you very much. Now, that's psychic mediumship. It didn't involve a person directly. Can you imagine that, getting a psychic medium impression about somebody's car, all the stuff under the hood? How do you explain that? How do you go off, let's say you just finished the experience, and you go back home or you talk to your friends, and your friends looking at you, what were you just talking about, Necessary Truth? How on earth could you possibly know anything about the components that are under the hood of TL's car? It's not my car, but a car that I'm allowed to drive. And how would you explain that? Weird. Okay, so you start questioning your own sanity. Get it? And that's what happens to some people if they don't know what's happening. I've had to really help people who have enjoyed some very powerful psychic experiences, which actually take them across to the other side, but they didn't really know what was happening, and they were so terrified because they caught a glimpse of life in the world and everything beyond the threshold of Saturn. And some people actually believe they're going insane. Some people actually do go insane. They can't control or handle the energy fields to which they have become exposed. And they resort to heavy self-medication or distractions or something to try and avoid that stuff, rather than understanding that it's perfectly natural and part of their evolutionary journey. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Very much to do with evolution. All right, let's have a look here. Maria. Good evening. All right, so let's see what we got. Chris is on the menu today as our invisible friend and guide. Personal invisible friend and guide for Necessary Truth. Fear. False evidence appearing real. Aha. All right, let's go over here. All righty. Dear Chris. Oh, gosh. Cheers, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your kind donation, Necessary Truth. Cards are already well shuffled from the last show and the last private reading, so don't worry about it. But I like to shuffle live right in front of you so that you are a witness. Okay? It's only fair. Otherwise, you would think I'm doing some kind of trickery. Yes, he gave me the code word. Ooh. Okay. Well, I don't really know what code word you're talking about, but we'll figure it out, no doubt, as we go along. Let's see. Okie dokie. Hey, dear Necessary Truth, would it surprise you to hear that Chris is in a very mellow, let's say, frequency right now? Makes me feel that he's almost like in this state of absolute serenity, and he's dealing with the same things that we have to deal with. You know, we were talking about the cusp of Capricorn to Aquarius regarding the planet Pluto, and the cusp of Aquarius to Pisces regarding Saturn. Well, my feeling is that Chris was listening very carefully because, you know, your invisible friends have a sensory experience just like we humans, okay? And they live through it, above it, and beyond it. They're probably operating at much higher frequencies than we are because they're already on the other side, so to speak. But they are in touch with these frequencies just like we are. And all I'm saying, Nikki, is that it's like, I'm going to do this. As far as I recall, Chris can be the jovial humorist, whereas John tends to be much more of the saturnine, responsible type. Okay, but anyway, as soon as you introduced Chris on the chat today, I got the feeling like, yeah, he's right here. Hey Chris, what's going on? How are you doing, man? Yeah, welcome to another show. Taking care of your buddy, Necessary Truth on the other side, right? He's like, yep, that's what we do. And I saw him wearing a proper shirt, like a dress shirt and a necktie. And I kept thinking, okay, so this, maybe he's making this gesture to be, let's say, a bit more mature. I don't know if that's a good idea. I think it's okay for Chris to be Chris. It's okay for John to be John. It's okay for all of you to be all of you. Anyway, I just wanted to notice it, because I get this. I've done mediumship for people. In some ways, I actually don't really like to practice it. It can be very satisfying, by the way. But I never had what I would call an official calling to be drawn into mediumship as a profession. Instead, I was directed to be here. So I'm here. Being here, I get to use props. I get to use the props of astrology, the props of tarot. But we're still dealing with similar type of frequencies. Anyway, I just wanted to share that, okay, Necessary? Right. I feel like we're in a very, very privileged little private club here. And I love hanging out with you guys and sharing what we can share. You all know that I had outrageous aspirations for my own glorious wishes to have this, let's say, a retreat. Let's just call it a retreat. A piece of beautiful property with all the splendors of nature, where there was so much abundance on the channel that every now and again somebody would be able to come and visit. Somebody from the channel would be able to come and visit, and there would be like a central piece of property where, of course, I would live at the center of my empire. And then we would have, caravans and tiny homes and little cabins and stuff for people to come and hang out. And we would have access to ocean, rivers, trees, deserts, mountains to hang out. And of course we would have regular campfires, and we would have chickens and food and grow vegetables and all those fun, beautiful things. We would have art classes, music, writing, all these creative, expressive things. Maybe one day, maybe one day. Right now it seems a little bit far-fetched given everything that happened to the channel years ago. But anyway, we keep going. Okay, what kind of messages do we have for Necessary Truth here today? As assisted by dear Chris. Oh gosh. It's almost, this happened once before, Necessary Truth, where Chris was here and he wanted to shuffle the cards. He wanted to have his hands around my hands, so it's like he could actually have the experience of shuffling the cards for you. So please allow for that. I feel that Chris is very, very present at the moment, but in this very sublime, serene type of energy field. How and why, I don't know, but that's what it feels like over here. Just sharing, okay? All right, so let's bless this deck, bless every single card, bless all the cameras and the lights, the technology, the microphones, the software, the platform, the visitors, the crowd, the chat, the donation buttons, the lighting, all of those things. Thank you very much. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle it. Let's have a look at some external influences. Obviously, I usually defer to the planets. So, we've got the Four of Wands here. Well, my feeling is for you, let me just... Well, obviously, there's something to celebrate. My feeling is that this is happening kind of on a spiritual plane right now, where, dear Necessary Truth, if you could look around your life and your world, and let me see if I can do it. Like if it was like a Disney movie or something. Watch this. I'm trying to imagine that I'm you, okay, Necessary Truth? I'm trying to imagine I'm you, and Chris is here trying to facilitate and everything. But it's like... it's almost like I'm holding your shoulders, and you know how sometimes you do when you're doing like really advanced like remote healing or even local healing or healing hands and stuff, you actually get hands contact. All I'm doing is putting hands on the shoulder right now and asking you to sort of lean slightly forward into your experience. And imagining that there is a veil right in front of you. It's like a very thin gauze, and it's right at the front of your face. And I'm sort of trying to suggest, imagine that I can just gently nudge you forward with your shoulders. And you move through this gauze, this filter. And you come through the other side, just like when you spread gauzy curtains open. You start to open them and you see a whole other thing on the other side. So that's what I'm sensing here with you for the Four of Wands, where this perception of what's on the other side is beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it needs to be appreciated and understood for how magnificent and wonderful it is. Because my feeling, my perception here as your reader, okay, Necessary Truth, is that you are being guided and invited into yet another level of evolution on the scale, like, 3D, 5D, 7D, 11D, whatever. So you're going into another level of the veil. The veil is being lifted and moved, and you're moving beyond the veil. You're getting a glimpse right now. You're literally getting a glimpse of what's beyond the veil, the next layer of veil. And with the Four of Wands, this is an indication that it is something very beautiful and profound and needs to be celebrated and shared, just like you do already with your natural gifts. But we're going next level. I hope that makes sense to you, okay? It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful thing. That's out there, and that's totally available to you. All right, let's have a look. What's the situation itself? The Queen of Wands. Again, something to be celebrated. It's time to get comfortable with your own awesomeness. No matter how comfortable you are already, it's time to have a quick gaze in the mirror. This has nothing to do with vanity or narcissism or anything like that. It's just an acknowledgement of your own awesome self and the incredible journey that you've had over multiple lifetimes to get to the point where you are now. And here is a little cat as your witness, okay? I feel like the little cat is saying, I told you so. I've been telling you for a long time. Meow, meow, meow. You are awesome. Please understand. Okay. And so the Queen of Wands is a beautiful energy. It's the energy of, it represents like living by example. Like if you can do it, it's an example that other people can do this too. And the Queen of Wands, this is going to sound really cheesy and corny, excuse me. In this particular setting, the Queen of Wands is almost like the embodiment of Lady Di energy on a really good day. Do you remember Lady Di from decades ago? She was the girlfriend and then the husband of now King Charles III of England. Lady Di had this magnificent aura, and it shed light all over the world, and she was the embodiment of compassion and love and caring. She actually had a very tragic life at the personal level, but on the public stage, she literally radiated the Queen of Wands. She would walk into a room and it would light up. She would go anywhere in the world and people would just, their hearts would open up. Because Lady Di she exuded inspiration. She led by example. She was not shy about her power, her majesty, her splendor, her ability to lead and inspire, and simply by her presence and by her spoken words and by her actions, especially her actions. She generated a lot of momentum in terms of inspiring other people to be awesome, just like her. Like, oh, if Lady Di can do it, then I can do it. Huh, wow. So there's that. Okay, let me go back to your reading. There's Mia. Is Mia, by any chance, a cat? Just asking. I forgot. I don't keep records of everybody's situations. But anyway, so the situation right now is that it's time for you to recognize your own awesomeness. Acknowledge that. Be proud of that. You don't have to gloat. You don't have to rub it in anyone's face. It doesn't matter. This is much more... This is an extremely healthy energy, and you deserve this. I think you've worked very hard over many lifetimes to get to be who you are today, where you have a substantial hold on 3D reality at the same time that you have a high degree of, you're like fluent. You're fluent in the multidimensional world of mediumship. That's an amazing combination. Mia is your black cat. Okay, right there. Meow. Meow. Mia. Meow. Mia, meow. Now, what's the problem here? Obviously, we got some problems. So this is a beautiful start here. It's just like, maybe you just needed this moment in time, okay? Necessary truth. Just a little snapshot moment in time to be reminded that you are awesome. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. It's something to be celebrated. And it's something that it's almost like you really need to continue to play to your strengths and just take it even further in the way that I described here about discovering that there are even more layers to the veils than you ever knew before. And they are becoming available and open to you. What's the challenges here? Okay, my feeling with the Knight of Swords is that it can be very scary at times to operate at the frequencies and the levels that you do. You would be naturally compelled to speak out, to speak truth, to literally let it flow like an unimpeded faucet. However, one of the problems with speaking truth at such high levels of purity and depth is that it can sometimes be, let's say, unappreciated. Whether that's on a one-to-one level with you and another person in a very three-dimensional way, like let's say you're really pissed off with somebody because of their behavior or their actions in the workplace or something like that, and you have to call it out. So you call it out, but it backfires really badly in the workplace, or it could be in a relationship. And yet, because of who you are and how you are and why you are the way you are naturally compelled to call out the deepest and most profound truth. And sometimes that can be very disruptive. You might be seen and perceived as someone who's hostile or trying to impose your power, your awesomeness over someone else. And some people don't like that. Some people take it very personally, especially when it comes to power. Like if somehow or other, if somehow or other the other party or the other parties have difficulty in understanding you or appreciating you, they might take great offense at your input or your reflections or your feedback or the truth that you shared. Because it doesn't matter about what the truth is or what the subject is anymore. They now see you as a threat, a personal threat to their own power. It's almost as though you're trying to show them up or expose them because of their lack of truth, whether it's a deliberate denial of truth or a simple ignorance of truth. Either way, some people might be very offended. And you might have come across that many, many times over life. And then what can you do? It's not your fault or your problem that the other parties can't handle the truth, can't handle your energy, can't handle your power. Like, let's go back to the Lady Di example for a minute. Like, there are some people who probably thought she was just like, she's, you know, she thinks she's all that. She thinks she's above all of us, you know. Some people think that. Some people did think that, yeah, okay. Anyway, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at there. So how are we going to deal with this? It's really like a recipe. How do you handle your own power? How on earth are you going to, let's say, recalibrate, realign yourself with your own power, because you're gaining power. It's something to be grateful for. It's something to celebrate and share. Okay? So how do we deal with this going forward? Okay, so in simple terms, just keep working at it. Stay focused on three-dimensional reality. Make, because this is where we live in real time. We live in anything from birth, life to death, at the maximum like 80, 90 years or something for most people. So in the meantime, while you're trying to integrate and understand this energy that we've been talking about here, no matter how challenging it might be to come to terms with your new and most awesome self, no matter how challenging it might be to celebrate all this and to resonate in the attitude of gratitude, and no matter that every now and again some people might really reject or resent who you are and the truth that you represent, you still have to keep going. So you see it as a long-term investment program where you don't let yourself get distracted. Like in a good, healthy work environment, a healthy workplace, you focus on the task at hand. You just get on with it. You pile up the assets. You get done what has to be done. And you see it as a long-term investment in your future. So this could be adding up to the next lifetime, for example, building a legacy for your so-called future. It is like an investment program. In other words, realizing that you are gifted, that you do have a gift, that it's very powerful, and it's highly appreciated by people who are receptive, okay? You might encounter problems now and again, but it is truly something that to be celebrated. And each time you share and celebrate this energy outwardly and openly, you're actually investing in your own future, the strength and stability of your own future. Okay? Oh God. Look who's here. Hey, thank you, Path Traveler. Thank you so much. It's a lot of work. You're probably pressing a lot of buttons to get rid of this TD person, tedious person, whoever it is. It's like a robot. They send out the robots. The AI, it's probably artificial intelligence programmed by the platform to try and destroy Terra Lumination. Anyway, so there we go. So Chris, what do you think of that? What do you think of that as a storyline? Oh, he's saying, like, don't forget me, don't forget us. Of course not. What he's trying to do is add that he's not. Okay. The little blip of a message I just got there from Chris is just like, and don't forget, dear Necessary Truth, you've always got me. What I mean by me is Chris. I'm right here. I'm here for you, and we're going to make this good stuff happen. And of course, John is there as well, but right now it's Chris. He's just like, we got this. We are going to do this, okay? Taking this very seriously, okay? All right. Wow. Oh God, this is like the same robot attack team. It's like a tag team. You know what, you guys, Pola and TD, you guys need to do this. Okay. Go and bug somebody else, okay? Just leave us alone. I'm not causing you any harm. Anyway, okay. So, there we go. Thank you, guides and ancestors. Absolutely. Anytime you get stressed or concerned about, anxious about this reading, just think of like an investment in your future. By reminding yourself that you are really awesome, that you do have a lot to offer, and you are very gifted, and you can, you're not allowed to be shy, you're not allowed to restrain your energy. It's like even, Prince Charles, King Charles, he could not restrain Lady Di. The Queen of England could not restrain Lady Di. And that's why one of the reasons why the world loved her so much on a massive scale is because she lived her own journey. She did not comply to the elites and all the power that they had. She just lived her life. It was a very, very beautiful love story. It was also a very tragic love story. But she really, truly was the embodiment of the Queen of Wands on a very good day. Thank you so much, dear Necessary Truth. It's a pleasure reading for you. All right, so I'm just going to hang here for a little bit. Put these over on the side. Go hang out with you folks. I got a little bit of water. My throat is very sore. All right. Yeah. I mean, that whole Lady Di energy, that's going back, what, decades? 30 years or something? Showing my age here. Alrighty. I'm getting a lot of flashbacks recently, lots of vivid dreams and stuff, and I've been having flashbacks of some of the readings I've done for people, some of them live readings on the show, some of them where we do a live reading on the show and then that turns into personal private readings. I've had clients that would book me twice a week for months and eventually working through certain issues. And then the client disappears. I've had clients who hire me and they would have very deep, really like soul-searching readings, and stuff would happen, and then a few weeks later I would get attacked by the client, like for whatever reason, like they didn't like the reading or they misinterpreted it or something. And sometimes the clients would try to sue me and get the money back, and it would turn into this vicious battle, and it would go through PayPal. And there were certain occasions where I kept thinking, like, I don't want to deal with this or anything. Here, have your money back. I'll just send your money back. Go somewhere else. I don't want to ever see you again. Don't appreciate who we are here and what we do? Good luck. Find somebody else who will put up with you. And sometimes I decided, you know what, this is not right. I gave a very authentic, genuine, very valuable reading to the person, and because you didn't like what I said on certain paragraphs or certain segments of your recordings, now you're going to try and take all your money back, accusing me of fraud, theft? No. And so I fought. It took me like 2.5 months to fight and go through all the legal stuff with PayPal, and I prevailed. Thank you very much. So, for example, let's say there's somebody new out there and they've never done this before, and they're thinking, wow, this is weird. Tarot Lumination, who are they? Where do they come from? Astrology readings, tarot readings, mediumship. Oh, what is all that? Maybe I should get a reading. And so, maybe they book a reading, and they put down their hard-earned money, and then they get a reading, and then they think they don't like it. What I have to remind people is that there is a disclaimer, and it's everywhere on every page on my website. It's on my channel in the About section, and the idea is that please people, in terms of the legal aspects of tarot reading and astrology, I have to state that this is for entertainment purposes only. Even though I take it very seriously and people pay me good money to do this as a way of dealing with matters that they can't deal through traditional means, like doctors or psychiatrists or friends and family. They come somewhere, they come here. And you never know what's going to happen. I've had personal readings where the whole reading turns into an experience of mediumship. I've had readings where it's all about the astrology, somewhere it's all about the tarot, sometimes where it's about the tarot and astrology combined. Sometimes I'll start a reading with just a simple little diagnostic spread like we just did here tonight, and then it will open up into a multi-level reading with different spreads, and they have beginnings, middles, and ends, and whatever, and you get this magnificent story that comes out, and then you deal with it. Anyway, still here. I've had a few knocks over the time. I would have to admit it. There's this channel, I think I've mentioned him before, Neil McCoy Ward. He's a British fellow, and I enjoy him because I lived in England a long time, and I have a really soft spot for some of the British culture. And Neil focuses on finance and global economics, but especially the finance and economics of the so-called Western developed countries and all the chaos and insanity that's happening here. And I think he's very, very good at pointing out the hows and the whys of what's happening and what to do about it. How do you deal with it? Because he doesn't know he's dealing with the astrology patterns in the way that I do, but I can see how the astrology patterns correlate exactly with his basically storylines about what's happening with the global financial system. And so he and his wife have made decisions to do things that are in alignment with so-called preppers. And so he has actually achieved things that I could only dream of, okay? So Neil is very successful financially now. He walks the talk. He's helped people become financially more solvent and stable and knowledgeable. He has a very successful YouTube channel. And he has learned the hard way to heavily censor himself so the algorithm doesn't cut him off. From me, sadly, from my perspective, the depth and the quality of the content on his shows has kind of gone from here to here, but it's still very good because he's got this like secondary language that you can reinterpret it so you know what he's talking about without him having to use language that triggers destructive algorithms. But he has been punished many times by YouTube. He keeps going, but it's heavily censored now. But here's the thing I really like about Neil. He walks the talk. He is living by example. He has changed his life in so many ways and achieved what I would love to do. He has recently bought, from what I can tell, a beautiful piece of property on the Isle of Man, which is near England. It's very green, it's very luscious, it has 4 seasons. On his property it has a river and a waterfall, and he's building up his prepper materials like food supplies, vegetables garden, and animals like chickens so that he can have eggs. And he's learning how to do this because he openly admits, like a year or 2 ago, he knew nothing about prepping and how to tune into that life. But he is following his own advice in terms of like, oh, well, what are you going to do? Let's say somebody writes into his channel and says, well, okay, Neil, well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to survive through all this financial chaos that's happening and what's coming up ahead? Because there's a lot worse to come. And so Neil would say things like, well, you got to talk about gold and silver. You got to make sure you don't have all your money stuck in one bank or one bank account. You got to make sure you've got about a year's supply of prepper foods like canned soups, canned vegetables, canned protein. You got to have water security. Maybe you can have big containers to save water. Preferably you'll have an environment or a living situation where you can grow plants and you can raise animals without breaking the law, and so on and so on. And he does it. And I just had I don't know, I guess you could call it just like a glimpse of like coulda, woulda, shoulda. Because I feel like, 6 years ago, I was already at that point where I already knew way in advance that it would be very, very advantageous to have a retreat. And I would make doodles, I would make maps and pictures and try to do creative visualizations and vision boards. And I haven't really quite got there, as you can tell. But I still feel it very, very warmly. I don't know what's going to happen down the long term. I'm hoping I have a really, really extended shelf life and I can somehow or other magically become rich, get this magical piece of property with enough acreage where I can invite you guys to come and visit. You'd have your own little cabin, shelter, space for a tent or something. We'd have the real campfire. We'd have food. We'd help and teach each other how to do all these cool, amazing things, living heavily off the grid and yet still very connected at the great beyond. I still feel that. I want it and dream it, but attainability, that's a whole other thing. I don't know. Anyway, I don't see any other bookings here tonight, so let's wrap it up. I'm going to send out another email invitation to those of you who are interested. Come and visit on Wednesday evening, 5 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a meeting. It'll be very much like this. Thank you for that, Path. Very, very smart. Those are very wise words. And it might be a little different. Wednesday night might be different. We might actually be having a pre-recorded thing and I'll be putting it up online. Or I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out here. I've taken up enough of your time for the day. We had a fun, super reading, and we had a little bit of exposure to the astrodoodles. I hope it helps you. Love you guys. Spread the word. Be loving, be loved. Very, very simple to say. Not quite so easy to do. On top of that, love thyself. Also remember, with your invisible friends, it works much better by invitation. In other words, you don't want to wait for a life-threatening car crash to happen before your invisible friends come and save you. It's better to have a really good relationship with your invisible friends so that they are very close to you all the time. It's almost like, it looks like you're talking to yourself, but you're actually closely communicating with your invisible friends. At least that's what I do. Anyway, take care. Good night, everybody. It's been wonderful. We'll connect again very, very soon.